Dear students, welcome to yet another lecture of your preparatory series for CLAT examination. And in this lecture, we are going to discuss future tense. This is going to be your penultimate lecture for the tense series. Earlier, we have covered present tense and past tense. So in this particular lecture, we'll be focusing more on the concept of future tense and some of the common mistakes. I'm Dr. Ravi Bhatt, Assistant Professor of English, and I'll be taking you through this lecture. Now, let's see the course outline. First, we'll cover what, why, definition, importance, types, and wrong usage of future tense. Eventually, we'll start our discussion on future tense and some variations of it, like simple future, future continuous, future perfect, and future perfect continuous, followed by the types of sentences, that is declarative, interrogative, imperative, exclamatory, affirmative, and negative, followed by some of the examples of sentences in different variations, followed by common mistakes in the use of future tense. And after that, we'll practice some questions and we'll end the lecture with some tips and tricks to master English tenses. So let's begin. First, as you all know, we have three types of tenses in English. They are present tense, past tense, and future tense. Present tense, past tense, and future tense. The four different forms, the four different variations of these forms are simple tense form, continuous tense form, perfect tense form, and perfect continuous tense form. And when it comes to future tense that we are going to discuss today, we have four variations of future tense. That is simple future tense, future continuous tense, future perfect tense, and future perfect continuous tense. Now, tenses. First, let's begin with future tense. Like we all know, the future tense is verb tense used to describe actions or events that will happen in future. It indicates something that hasn't occurred yet but is expected or planned to happen. In English, the future tense is commonly formed using will or shall, followed by the base form of the verb, base form. For example, I will study or they shall go. Now, when it's come to the wrong use of future tense, let's see some of the examples telling us about the wrong use of future tense. Here, we are going to discuss some of scenarios where wrongly using future tense might create a situation of panic or confusion with someone with whom you are interacting. Now, at a railway station, wrong, the train will arriving at 5 p.m. yesterday. Okay. Now, the correct would be the train arrived at 5 p.m. yesterday, or the train will be arriving at 5 p.m. today. Okay. So, what we're doing here, we're mixing future continuous with the past time marker, which is a possible wrong use. And in real life scenarios, the passengers waiting for the train might be standing around in confusion, not knowing if they've missed the train or if they're going to catch the train. Okay, the correct variations would be the train arrived at 5 p.m. yesterday, or talking about the future, the train will be arriving at 5 p.m. today. Second, at a doctor's clinic. The wrong variation would be by the time you will come tomorrow, I'm finishing all the reports. Now, again, this is an incorrect sequence of future and present tense. Okay, so the correct would be by the time you come tomorrow, I will have finished all the reports. Okay, now in the real life scenario, it might really create a situation of confusion. The doctor might expect reports to still be pending when in fact they should have been completed. All right, and always remember that there are only specific cases where we use shall these days, because for most of the general conversation, will fits in. in the modern day grammar, will actually become, it has become very popular, and it fits in for most of the context, in most of the context. Now, see, during a business meeting. Now, the wrong variation would be, we will discuss the project details in the meeting next Monday. Okay. Now, what we are doing here, we are confusing simple future with past participle form. Okay. And in the real life scenario, the team members may be unsure whether the discussion has already taken place or is still upcoming. Okay. The correct would be, we will discuss the project details in the meeting next Monday. All right. We will discuss the project details in the meeting next Monday. Okay. We'll never use it with the past participle form. Okay. It's always will plus the base form of the verb. In the very same way, say you're discussing birthday party with somebody, you're talking about a birthday party. The wrong would be, I'm going to eat so much cake at your party tomorrow. Okay. Now, what's the error here? A future intention incorrectly combined with the past tense verb. Okay. Now, the one you're talking to that way could get puzzled, thinking that the speaker somehow, have eaten the cake already. And, the party has not even happened. So that will create a kind of confusion for them. So the correct variation would be, I'm going to eat so much cake at your party tomorrow. All right. Fifth, planning a vacation. For example, you're planning a vacation with your friends. So what you said, by the time we are landing in Paris, we will have seen the Eiffel Tower, which again happens to be a grammatically wrong sentence construction, because what it does, it mismatches future perfect tense structure. All right. So, and again, by this, in the real life scenario, your travel companions might scramble their itinerary, thinking that they're expected to sightsee even before arriving, creating a condition of chaos and panic. So, the correct English would be, the correct grammatical constructions could be, by the time we land in Paris, we will see the Eiffel Tower, or after landing in Paris, we will visit the Eiffel Tower. All right. Now, let's take a next example. Okay. Perhaps the last example, making dinner plans. For example, you're making a dinner plan with someone and you said, tonight, I will having dinner with my parents at 8 p.m. Now, what you're doing here, you're incorrectly using future simple with the present participle form. Okay. So, some of your friends who are planning to join might not understand whether dinner is confirmed or is still uncertain. Okay. So, rather than this, what you can say, tonight, I will have dinner with my parents at 8 p.m. or tonight, I'm having dinner with my parents at 8 p.m. That's the grammatically correct version. Now, let's discuss, okay, what exactly are the tenses that we are going to discuss today. Like we said, future tense, some basics about the future tense. After that, we'll start discussing the variations. So, future tense, according to the Cambridge Dictionary, is defined as the form of a verb when you use when you are talking about something that will happen or exist. Okay, according to Poland's dictionary, the future tense is defined as a tense of verbs used when the action or event described is to occur after a time of utterance. And the Merriam-Webster dictionary defines the future tense as a verb tense that is used to refer to the future. Examples, for example, Navya will write a song for the sectionals, or Catherine will be coming home for the holidays, or Bharat will have left work by now. So these are some of the constructions in future tense. Now, there are some of the rules that we follow whenever we construct sentences in future tense. The future tense is used for actions that are expected to happen in the future. It refers to events that are not happening right now but will occur later. And that's how the sentence construction happens. Shall versus will. Shall is sometimes used with I and be to express future actions, though will is more common in modern English. In fact, in modern English, for most of the scenarios, will is used. the use of shall is rather limited as a modal verb, where we would rather ask for a permission from someone. For example, we say, shall we? Okay, shall we make a move? All right. So it is rather confined to being a modal verb rather than an element of grammar, a helping verb of grammar denoting future, because for that, will is most commonly used. Now, going to is also used. However, going to is often used to express planned future actions. However, till the time, if we are going by strict grammatical rules, we'll have to make sentence construction from will only. Okay, from will or shall only. Now, going by the old rules of grammar, they would certainly forbid anyone to use going to in normal sentence structures. However, in the modern English grammar, going to is very commonly used, but sticking to the core grammatical concepts, the sentences are to be made from will and shall only, because that's what abides to the traditional, sentence structures that we study, in fact, that we are going to study. Now, let's begin with the sentence variations. Now, the first structural formula, subject plus will plus base form of the verb. Okay, now when we talk about simple future tense, it is always subject plus will plus base form of the verb. For example, Sindhu will walk to school tomorrow, or we will play cricket in the evening. Now, these are some very basic sentence constructions. Now, as we all know, guys, that there are certain types of sentences in English, okay, just like we discussed in the last two videos as well. And whenever we discuss any sentence structure, we try to put in those sentences and we try to make various sentences as according to their function, or whether they state something that is true or not. So these are some of the divisions that we have. For example, we have declarative sentences. Now, as you all know, what do declarative sentences do? They state a fact, opinion, or an idea. Then we have interrogative sentences that ask questions. Then we have imperative sentences, okay, the purpose of which is to give a command or to make a request, like, close the door, okay, or stop that. Fine. And then we have exclamatory sentences. Okay. Now, exclamatory sentences, what do? They express strong emotions, excitement, surprise, or any other very strong feeling. Okay. For example, when I say, wow, that is amazing, that is an exclamatory sentence. There is various subcategorization as well here, where I say there are two types of sentence, like affirmative and negative. Now, affirmative sentences, they assert whether something is true, okay, while negative statements, okay, negative sentences assert something is not true, okay, they negate any idea. Now, affirmative sentences in general, what I can say, that they express agreement or affirmation, while negative sentences, they express denial or contradiction. So, how you can understand this, that an affirmative sentence makes positive statement, agreeing with or asserting the truth of something. It does not contain any negative words like not, no, never. Okay, such words you will never find in any affirmative sentence. That is, affirmative sentence means by default positive. For example, the sky is blue. Whereas when it comes to negative sentences, they denies or they contradict a proposition, fine, indicating that something is not true or something is not happening. And always remember that typically it includes words like no, not, never, or any other negative terminology. For example, the sky is not blue. She's coming, affirmative. She's not coming, negative. So, as simple as that. Now, what we are going to do, we are going to make simple future sentence construction in all of these sentences. Now, first, by function or by purpose. Okay. Now, a declarative sentence, I will start a new project next month, or they will arrive at the airport by noon, or she will complete her assignment before the deadline, or we will celebrate your birthday together. Now, these are the examples of declarative statements. Now, let's go to interrogative statements. Now, here it is, will plus subject plus base form of the verb. Now, here, how we have made the sentences: will she visit her grandparents tomorrow? Or will we finish the project on time? Or will they attend the concert next week? Or will I call you after the meeting? Like this. Then we have interrogative negative. Okay. Interrogative negative means that will always come with, I told you what are negative statements. Okay. Now, when a negative statement is written in an interrogative way, then it becomes interrogative negative. Interrogative means always asking a question. Now, interrogative negative, the structure is won't plus subject plus base form of the verb. So that is, won't Sindhu walk to school tomorrow? Or does your brother play the guitar? What time does the shop open? Or do birds fly south in winter? Now, all of this is being followed by a question mark. Okay, so it is won't plus subject plus base form of the verb. Now, next we have imperative sentences. Okay, now imperative sentences, let's see the examples. Imperative sentences, like I said, imperative sentences, they would always rather give a command or make a request. So, make sure you will call me when you reach, or tell him he will submit the forms tomorrow, or remind her that she will attend the training session, or ensure that the guests will leave before midnight. Okay, now these are imperative sentences, and here we come to exclamatory sentences. Now, exclamatory sentences, even though one thing that you must notice, that even though exclamatory sentences might start with WH words, they will always end with an exclamation mark. Okay, so that is when an exclamation sentence like what a memorable journey it will become, or how beautiful the garden will look in spring. So this is not a question, rather this is an exclamation. Okay, so the examples are like they are on your screen. What a grand party it will be, or how happy you will feel when you see the surprise, or how beautiful the garden will look in spring, or what a memorable journey it will become. These are exclamatory sentences. Affirmative sentences, subject plus will plus base form of the verb. Okay, now first says she will visit her grandparents tomorrow, we will finish the project on time, they will attend the concert next week, or I will call you after the meeting. So these are affirmative sentences. And the negative sentences here: we will not forget your kindness, we will not miss the train this time, she will not agree to the proposal, and they will not attend the event next week. These are some of the negative formations. Now let's move on to the other variation of future tense, that is future continuous tense. Now, when do we use future continuous tense? When we are referring to any event that will be going on at one particular time in the future. For example, I know what you will be doing tomorrow at this, from this to this time. For example, you have an exam to take. You're writing an exam from 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. So I'm saying that tomorrow at 5 p.m. you will be, or tomorrow at 4:30 p.m. you will be writing your exam in the examination hall. So I know what action is going to happen at specific time, and I'm referring to that time where that action is ongoing. So there I'll use future continuous tense. So in future, some work must be going on continuously, like the name suggests. So the structural formula is subject plus helping verb plus be plus main verb in ing form plus rest of the sentence. For example, Ramesh will be coming home for the holidays, or Zahir will be visiting the city in July. Now, again, we know types of sentences. Okay, we'll try to fit in this particular structure into various types of sentences that we have discussed. Now, declarative sentences like she will be working on her project tonight, or they will be traveling to New York next week. I will be waiting for you at the station, or he will be reading a novel in the evening. The next is interrogative. Now, we all know in interrogative, in interrogative sentences, what do? We ask a question. So interrogative questions are will plus subject plus be plus verb in ing form. So will you be attending the workshop tomorrow? Will they be staying at the hotel for 2 days? Will she be participating in the competition? Or will we be meeting at the cafe later? So these are interrogative sentences. All right. Now, next we have imperative sentences. Imperative sentences usually don't fix exactly in future continuous, but polite reminders or instructions can. Okay. Generally, we don't use imperative sentences in future continuous, but in general, polite reminders and instructions, they can be noted. Now, for example, some examples here are: please note, you will be meeting the CEO at noon. Or kindly remember, you will be waiting for your turn quietly. Or say, make sure you will be attending the session on time. Or do not forget, you will be practicing the speech tomorrow. All right. So these are the example of imperative sentences. Now let's come to exclamatory sentences. Now, what exclamatory sentences do? They express any emotion or feeling. So first, how wonderfully she will be performing on stage. I'm imagining an action that is going to that will happen in the future, and I'm showing my emotion for that. So how wonderfully she will be performing on stage, or what a long journey they will be making, or how happily we will be celebrating your success, or say what an exciting game they will be playing tomorrow. So these are exclamatory sentences. And then we have affirmative sentences. Okay. Now, affirmative sentences are positive statements. Now, she will be preparing dinner when you arrive. They will be watching a movie tonight. Or I will be studying at 8 p.m. and we will be visiting grandma this weekend. What? All are showing some actions, all are showing some positive actions, positive statements, affirmative, and here are negative statements. That is subject plus will not be or say will never be plus verb ing form. So she will not be joining the meeting today. They will not be staying at the hotel. I will not be attending the seminar. We will not be traveling this holiday season. Now, as far as the tense is the later one is concerned, now let's talk about future perfect tense. Now, when we talk about future perfect tense, so students, whenever we talk about a finished action with reference to future, then we'll use future perfect tense. For example, I am talking about an action that will be finished by a certain time reference in the future. So what is that? That is future perfect. Okay. For example, the structural formula is subject plus helping verb, that is will, plus have, plus past participle form of the main verb, plus the rest of the sentence along with time frame. Now examples are Bharat will have left work by now, or you will have studied the English tenses. Okay. So that is future perfect tense. Now again, let's go for some of the examples here. Declarative sentences. Again, subject plus will have plus past participle. Now again, like I said, we are referring to any particular action that will be done by any specific time reference point in the future. Now when I say she will have finished her book by Sunday, now what I'm referring to, that a point in future is Sunday, and I know that by Sunday she would have finished reading the book. So what I'm saying, that she will have finished reading or she will have finished her book by Sunday. We will have completed the painting before sunset, or they will have built the new bridge by next year, or I will have submitted my thesis by December. Now, interrogative, will plus subject plus have plus past participle. Will you have graduated by next summer? Or will he have reached the airport by noon? Or will they have left before we arrive? Or will we have completed the project on time? So these are interrogative sentences. And then we have imperative sentences. That is future perfect imperatives. They are basically polite requests or reminders, just like other imperative sentences are. Please ensure you will have locked all the doors before leaving. Or kindly make sure you will have emailed the report by 5 p.m. Now, these are the formations which we very often hear. Okay. Now, you're putting in a request for any future work to be done. So, you're using an imperative statement with reference to the future. Like you say, remember that you will have completed your registration by tomorrow, or don't forget you will have arranged the chairs before the event starts. Okay. Now, these are imperative sentences. And then we have exclamatory sentences, expressing excitement or surprise about future completed actions. Okay, now the examples are how much you will have learned by the end of the course, or what a wonderful job you will have done by then, or how far they have traveled by next month, or what a difference you will have made after this project. These are all what? Exclamatory sentences. Now, again, let's go for the last two categorizations, affirmative sentences and negative sentences. Now, let's see the example of affirmative sentences first. Now, positive future perfect statements. She will have cleaned the entire house before noon. Or they have planted all the trees by summer. Or say, he will have prepared the car by tomorrow evening. And the last one, I will have written 3 chapters by next week. Okay. Now, the negative statement, subject plus will not have plus past participle. She will not have finished her homework by dinner time. We will not have reached the station before the train starts. He will not have completed the task by the deadline. And they will not have prepared the stage before the show begins. These are some of the negative statements. All right. Now, let's move on to the last formation, last sentence variation, okay, of future tense, that is future perfect continuous tense. Now, when do we use future perfect continuous tense? Now, whenever we are talking about the future and we are talking about any unfinished action in the future that will, that whenever we are taking the future point of reference is still going on or will be still going on, okay, so for that we will always take what? Future continuous tense. For example, when I say in November I will have been working at my company for 3 years, that means I'm still working for my company, and in November I will still be working for my company. So an ongoing action, and the time of reference is future. For example, right now say it is April. Now by November I will have completed, or perhaps I will be working for this company for 3 years. So I'm giving a time reference of future and talking about an action which is still going on. Okay, so the structural formula here is subject plus helping verb will plus have been plus main verb in ing form plus rest of the sentence. Examples: in November, I will have been working at my company for 3 years. Or at 5 o'clock, I will have been waiting for 30 minutes. All right. Now, these are the examples. Now, like we've discussed some of the types of sentences in English, let's again put this variation into different types of sentences so as to clarify how to use present perfect future perfect continuous tense. Now, by function on purpose or purpose, declarative, subject plus will have been plus verb in ing form. She will have been working at the company for 5 years by next March, or by the time we meet, they will have been traveling for over 24 hours, or I will have been studying all day by the time you arrive, or he will have been practicing the piano for hours by the evening. Now, that is a declarative statement. These all are declarative statements. However, you see the sentence construction. We all are referring to any ongoing action in the future, and the reference of that action is happening when the action is ongoing from a future point in time. Okay. In the very same way, let's go for the interrogative sentences. Will plus subject plus have been plus verb, ing form. Will you have been studying for 3 hours by the time I arrive? Or will they have been working on this project for a month by next week? Or will she have been waiting long when we get there? Or will we have been driving for more than 5 hours by noon? So, in all these sentences, again, we are asking a question and we are talking about a future action that will still be ongoing with reference to a particular point in time. For example, if you see, will we have been driving for more than 5 hours by noon? Okay, now I'm referring to noon, which is in the future, and I'm also referring to the action of driving. And what my sentence implies that we are currently driving. We are driving right now, and by noon it will be more than 5 hours of driving. So will we still be driving? That's the question. And hence this formation came that will we have been driving for more than 5 hours by noon? Okay, these are interrogative sentence constructions. Now, imperative, okay. Again, future perfect continuous imperatives are reminders or polite requests. Now, first, make sure you will have been preparing the reports before the meeting starts. Or please ensure that you will have been working on the task by 3 p.m. Or say, don't forget, you will have been practicing the speech all morning. Or perhaps ensure that you will have been driving for at least an hour before stopping. Okay, so these are imperative statements. Now, exclamatory statements, these are the statements that expresses strong emotions about future ongoing actions. Now, how long will you have been waiting for the concert to begin? Or what a difference you will have been making by the time this project is finished? Or say, how much we will have been improving by the end of the training? Or say, how far they will have been traveling by the time they reach the final destination. Okay, now again, these all sentences are expressing strong emotions about some future ongoing actions. Okay, now let's come to the last two categories, affirmative and negative. So they are quite simple. Affirmative statements, like I told you earlier, they tell us about some positive action, some action that is about to happen. Whereas when it comes to negative statement, they negate any statement. So let's see the examples. She will have been working on her novel for over a year by next July, and they will have been driving for hours by the time they reach the hotel. Or I will have been teaching at the school for 5 years by the end of the semester. Or say, we will have been cleaning the house all day when you arrive. Okay. And the last one, negative statements. So the structure is subject plus will not have been plus verb in ing form. Now, she will not have been working at the office for very long by next month. Or say, they will not have been traveling for long by the time we meet. Or he will not have been studying enough for the exam. And D, we will not have been waiting for you when you arrive. So they are certainly negating any proposition. That's why they're known as negative statements. Now, students, these are the four variations of future tense that we would often talk about. Now, let's begin and let's see that what are some of the common mistakes which people would often do while using future tense. Because what happens that whenever we talk about these sentence structures and we practice statements like this, So things look pretty simple. However, these things are easier said than done. So let's look at some of the common mistakes that people prefer while using future tense, followed by some questions and some tips and tricks on making tenses strong. Now, some of the common mistakes with future tense. First, incorrect use of present continuous for predictions. For example, we do not use present continuous when we make predictions. For example, you're failing the exam unless you attend more classes. No. Either we'll say you are going to fail the exam unless you attend more classes, or we'll keep it in simple present. You fail the exam unless you attend more classes. Okay. We don't use present continuous. Second mistake, wrong form when making immediate decisions. Okay. So whenever making immediate decision, we use comma with double L, not shall, full, will, or simple present. For example, I shall lend you my car, or I lend you my car. Right, people? I lend you my car. Okay. We use the contracted version. Okay. The contracted version, the shorter version. All right. Missing is MR with going to. Okay. Now we must use am, is, or are with going to in the form. For example, I going to play the match tomorrow. No, I am going to play the match tomorrow. These are very small mistakes, but they are often committed by people who don't really hold a command over the language. So yeah, we need to be particular about it. The next is missing to after going. Okay, so going must always be followed by to plus a verb to show future intentions. Okay. Now, for example, when I say she's going that movie again, or is she's going watch that movie again, she's going see that movie again. So this will be grammatically incorrect. The right would be she's going to watch that movie again. She's going to see that movie again. Okay. Now, the next one, using the ing form instead of base verb. Explanation, after will or going to, use the base form, not the ing form. Now, for example, the wrong form would be he will winning the match. Okay, or he's going to winning the match. No, it will be he will win the match or he's going to win the match. Okay, but the more appropriate option will be he will win the match. Okay, now going on with the next one, adding to after will. Please learn that we do not add to between will and the verb. For example, they will to be sorry. They will be sorry. Okay. After will not add to. Okay. Fine. The seventh one, using present tense instead of future continuous. So the explanation is use will be plus verb ing form for ongoing actions at a future time. For example, this time tomorrow I fly to Paris. Now it will be this time tomorrow I'll be flying to Paris, because what we are doing, we're talking about an ongoing action at a future time. So we'll use future continuous. Okay, so it will always be this time tomorrow I will be flying to Paris. It will be verb ing form. Okay, because we are talking about an ongoing action of future. Next one, incorrect use of future perfect. Now, how this is incorrect use of future perfect? For actions finished before a future time, we will always use will have plus past participle. Okay, for example, when we say by next week, I will finish the project. So when we say by next week, I will finish the project, or by next week, I finish the project, both are grammatically wrong. The right would be by next week, I will have finished the project. Will have finished. Okay. So that's the correct use of future perfect. All right. Let's go with the next one. Confusing shall and will in modern English. Okay. Now, use will for future predictions, use shall mainly for often, offers, or suggestions. Okay. For example, wrong is I shall meet you tomorrow, whereas right is I will meet you tomorrow. Now here is one disclaimer that I might give. Okay. Not that using shall will be grammatically wrong. However, shall has been discarded generally from the future constructions. Not that it's officially discarded, but it is not used so often. It has become obsolete. Okay. Now, when it comes to grammatical correctness, obviously it is grammatically correct, unless in some specific cases where will or would be used. But shall is generally obsolete in such sentence constructions. Now, let's go with the next one. Forgetting time markers with future tense. One more mistake that we often commit is that we forget time markers with future tenses. For example, it is wrong to say that I will call you when. Okay. Now, take this not in a conversational reference, in a reference of a general conversation without any context. So, it's better to give a time marker. For example, I will call you tomorrow. Okay, that would be more appropriate, more acceptable. Okay, and free of any kind of ambiguity. Moving on with the last one, the last mistake, mixing up going to be and will for plans, confusing going to be and will for plans. Okay, now use be going to for fixed or planned actions and will for spontaneous decisions or promises. Okay, now when you say, see, if your visit to your grandparents is planned for the next weekend, okay, so generally we use going to. So I'm going to visit my grandparents next weekend. It will not be I will visit my grandparents next weekend. Okay, so generally for things that are already planned, we use going to. And for spontaneous decisions, spontaneous promises, spontaneous actions, will is more preferred. So these are some of the common mistakes which we would often commit while we are talking about future tense. Now, let's move on to some of the questions or perhaps the types of questions that you might encounter, direct or indirect, while we are studying future tense. So, let's begin with some of the practice questions. Now, types of questions on future tense. One. Now, question one. Which sentence is correct for a spontaneous decision? A. I will help you with your homework. B. I help you with your homework. C. I am helping you with your homework. D. I'm helping you with your homework. I helping you with your homework. So you can either pause this or you can go in the flow with me and ascertain the correct decision, the correct option. Now, the answer is A. I will help you with your homework. Okay. We use will for immediate decisions made at the moment of speaking. Okay. So I'll help you with your homework. Now, types of questions on future tenses 2. Next question. Choose the correct form for a promise. I'm going to call you later. I will call you later. I'm calling you later. I calling you later. And I am call you later. So I don't think it will be very tough to guess. Okay. Will. Now, promises generally are made using will. I will call you later. Now, the next question. Identify the correct usage of going to for a planned action. Now, I going to visit my cousin tomorrow, or I am visit my cousin tomorrow, or I'm going to visit my cousin tomorrow, or I visit my cousin tomorrow. What would be the correct one? It would be I'm going to visit my cousin tomorrow. Okay. Is MR plus going to plus base verb. These are used for future plans. Okay. So I'm going to visit my cousin tomorrow. Future plans that are already fixed. Okay. Future events that are already fixed. Question number 4. Choose the correct sentence showing a planned intention. Okay, now we are referring to a planned intention. Now, she going the party tonight. She going to party tonight. She is going party tonight. She's going to attend the party tonight. So the correct answer is D. She is going to attend the party tonight. Okay, going to is always followed by the base form of the verb. Okay. Now, which sentence correctly expresses an action happening at a specific future time? Now, here is something you need to focus upon. Now, what we are referring to, we are referring to an action happening at a specific future time. I fly to New York at this time tomorrow. B. I will be flying to New York at this time tomorrow. I will flying to New York at this time tomorrow. Or I'm flying to New York at this time tomorrow. The answer is B. I will be flying to New York at this time tomorrow. Okay. Will be plus ing form of the verb. It describes an action. Okay. That is in progress at a future time. All right. So that is, I will be flying to New York at this time tomorrow. Now, question 6. Select the correct form for future continuous. A. She will be attending the meeting at 5 p.m. She will attending the meeting at 5 p.m. She attend the meeting at 5 p.m. or she will to attend the meeting at 5 p.m. Not really sure if that would create any confusion because it's quite straightforward question. She will be attending the meeting at 5 p.m. Okay. Now future continuous needs will be plus ing form always. Now, while we discuss all these questions, while independently these questions might seem easy, you are supposed to apply the applications of it in your general English language as well. Okay. When you read a big statement, or for example, when you read a big paragraph, there you must know that whenever I'm referring to any sentence that tells me about a future ongoing action, which tense I'm supposed to use. There you're supposed to use future continuous tense. So while individually these questions might sound or might seemingly look easy, as a whole, when you read a paragraph, it becomes extremely tough. Now, moving on. Question 7. Choose the correct sentence for a completed action before a future time. By 8 p.m., they finish dinner. By 8 p.m., they will have finished dinner. By 8 p.m., they will finishing dinner. And by 8 p.m., they are finishing dinner. So let's see which is the correct answer. By 8 p.m., they will have finished dinner. Okay. Now, whenever we use any specific time reference and we are referring to any task that is being completed before a specific future time, it is always will have plus past participle. So here the correct answer is B. By 8 p.m., they will have finished dinner. Question 8. Which sentence correctly uses future perfect? A. By next year, I will have completed my course. B. By next year, I complete my course. C. By next year, I will completing my course. And D. By next year, I will be completed my course. Now, in such constructions, by understanding the meaning of the sentence as a whole, you might really understand what exactly this means. However, putting it across in a grammatically correct variation also happens to be equally important. So now let's see what is the correct answer. It's A. By next year, I will have completed my course. Okay. Now it is when future perfect is formed, it is always with will have plus past participles. Okay. And you must know about participles. Okay. They are present participles, past participles. Okay. They are broadly the category of verbals. And in English, we have three verbals. Okay. As you might well be aware of, we have gerunds, we have participles, and we have infinitives. Okay. So the answer here is A. By next year, I will have completed my course. Okay. Now come on to the next one. Identify the correct sentence for future perfect continuous. Now, future perfect continuous, what I'm referring to, I'm referring to a specific time frame for future, and I'm referring to any unfinished work with reference to that time frame. Okay. So there are four options to this particular question here. A, by December, she will been working here for 5 years. Okay. B, by December, she will have been working here for 5 years. All right. C, by December, she will working here for 5 years. Or D, by December, she has been working here for 5 years. Okay. So the right answer, I don't think it will be very tough to guess. By December, she will have been working here for 5 years. Okay. So what I'm referring to a action in the future. That is, I'm referring to an action in December. And what I'm saying that by December, now a person say named Catherine. So Catherine is working in our company, and I'm referring to a and say this is April, and I'm referring to a time reference of the future, and I'm telling you that by December, okay, she will have been working here for 5 years. She will be completing 5 years. Okay, so the correct sentence structure or the correct sentence construction in that scenario will be that by December, she will have been working here for 5 years. The explanation will have been plus verb ing form. It shows the duration of an action continuing up to a point in the future. There's always in whenever we talk about future perfect continuous, there is always a time reference of a future time that we are referring to. Okay, and on that there will always be the mention of time. For example, I've already discussed the difference between the use of for and since. So I'm repeating it again here. Here you see it says by December she will have been working here for 5 years. So there are two of these adverbs that talks about time, for and since. For always tells us the period of time. Okay, for 5 years, for 10 years, for 10 days, for 10 hours, for 8 months. Okay, whereas since is always used for point in time. Since Monday, since 1928, since 1877, since 2021. Okay, so both for and since are used to denote time, but for is used to denote a period of time, whereas since is used to denote a point of time. Always remember that, because these things create petty confusions and you end up creating silly mistakes. Okay, now the correct answer here is B. By December, she will have been working here for 5 years, and the explanation is that will have been plus verb ing form. It shows the duration of an action continuing up to a point in the future. Now, quickly moving on to the next example, next question, sorry. Which is correct to show the length of an action by a future time? A. By next month, I will have been studying for 3 years. B. By next month, I will be studying for 3 years. C. By next month, I have been studying for 3 years. And D. By next month, I will studying for 3 years. So the correct answer here is by next month, I will have been studying for how many years? For 3 years. Okay. The explanation again, future perfect continuous shows both progress and duration up to a future point. Okay. So these are some of the questions, okay, based on different variations of tenses. So my dear students, moving on towards the end of the lecture. Now, here are some of the tips and techniques to master English tenses. First, keep a clear mind. Be ready to unlearn and relearn. Since English is not our first language, for most of us, English is not a first language. So we must be ready to unlearn and relearn. And along with practice, eventually the command over the English language will be better. However, since English is not our first language, it is but obvious to create or to commit grammatical mistakes. But by being a little bit observant, the mistakes will very easily be shooed away. Understand what tenses are and how they are used. In particular, since you all know that there are specific structures that the sentences follow. Okay, so first of all, understand what tenses are and how they are used and what do they denote. Okay, and always try to understand it with reference. For example, when we refer to an present action, present action which is being finished, just now with reference to present, we'll use present perfect. An action that is being done with reference to past, okay, we use past perfect. An action that is going to be completed at a specific time in the future, then we use future perfect. Okay, so like this, there are patterns of time. Okay, and always remember that there are only three basic tenses in English, and there are four variations of each of them. Okay, so there are a total of 12 tenses that tells us all about time. Now, third, there are particular patterns in which each tense is conjugated. The whole process would become a lot easier if you try to identify the patterns and understand them. For example, the continuous tense takes a helping verb and verb in the present participle form. So again, your knowledge of basic structures of tenses, your knowledge of helping verb, your knowledge of some of the basics. For example, when I say do, does, did, they're always followed by the first form of the verb. Now, there is this common mistake that people often commit with did, they use the past form, which renders the language incorrect, which renders their sentence incorrect. So, some of these specific things are something that you can purely avoid. And by keeping these tense structures in your mind, this will help you greatly. Now, next, the last one, let's end the lecture. Go through as many examples as you can, practice as much as you can, and you will know how exactly each tense works out in different contexts. Okay, for example, like it said that if you want to master something, you do it over and over again. Okay, if you want to master English tenses from exam perspective and from your general language perspective, you must go through as many examples as you can find, and you must do observant reading and observant listening. Now, what do I mean observant reading and observant listening? Say you're reading a caption, or say you're reading a write up on social media or on any digital online platform, or say any hard copy of anything. Now, you see how sentences are created. Okay, when you read the current affairs for GK, you see that there are basically a lot of sentences written, and they all are written in different tenses. For example, government is planning some action, some ban. So whatever government is planning in future, that will all be written in future tense. So you observantly read that, you observe it very succinctly, that how the sentences are framed. Okay, this is where you learn real time. You're referring to someone speaking about their future plans. Okay, and then you see how they are creating sentences. This is what actually helps you. Okay, so observant reading and observant listening is the need of the hour. And this will teach you much more than any lecture can teach. Okay, because we have 2 years, okay, to hear, 2 years to observe, and one mouth to speak. So we need to observe more. There are, of course, a few exceptions. You just have to go through them keenly and apply them. It will surely take time, but you'll be able to master it with your determination and continuous effort. Obviously, when we talk about tenses, there are few exceptions. In fact, in entire English language, irrespective of what we read, there are always and always exceptions. Okay. However, this will only come with practice. Nothing else can help you master that. Above all, there is one thing that you should add to your list of to do things. Read books. Okay. Anything that is informative and interests you. Watch movies, videos, or even series. Okay, when you watch web series, these days we are consuming a lot of media. Okay, so these type of things helps you understand English in real time. And when you read something or when you watch something which is inherently being spoken by people who have good command of the language, you naturally learn. Okay. So these are some of the tricks to master English tenses, my dear friends. Hope you have enjoyed today's lecture. Thank you. Have a good day. I'll see you in some other lecture. Thank you.